Okay, I joined the military in 1981, and I married my drinking buddy. Lo, behold, he was abusive. There was this little piece of me in my back of my mind saying that I shouldn't marry him, but I did anyway. Because always, that I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. You want to believe that it's not going to happen. And even the first incident was he had pushed me, and I went to catch my fall and ended up breaking bones in my hand and fracturing and whatnot. Had a cast. This was prior to getting married. So there was all the warning signs, but, again, believing whatever. And it's just like with anything else. It escalated bad. We did come, I got pregnant with our first child. He argued with me for 6 months to get out. He wanted to be in control, period. So I basically, got fed up with the fighting, and I was 6 months pregnant. Then I got out of the military, thinking, okay, maybe this will make things better, and it never did. And same thing with, going stateside. It didn't make it any better. And actually, my daughter was 6 months pregnant, and I had worked off all the baby weight that I had gained and was back in my, little cutesy, and his buddies were making comments about it. So he came home drunk one night, and he pretty much raped me. He was drunk, and I was crying because I knew I was going to get pregnant. And I did. And when I found out, I cried. Everybody was happy. I cried because I thought I'm going to be fat again. But to me, it was like, that's what he wanted. Well, he would always make them, comments of barefoot and pregnant. My nickname was Woman. He didn't call me Lisa. And so when my son was born, I was really devastated because I didn't feel like he was born out of love, and the beatings, everything got really, really bad. I was in Germany. Who wasn't going to ask for help? Because we were only stateside 11 months, and they sent orders to go right back. It was like, you're kidding. We were just there for 2 years, so. But by this point, it was terrible. My alcoholism was out of control. Well, so was his. But I used that to hide. I cleaned the house. I spit-shined his boots. I starched his fatigues. The kids were always, I had a full-course meal. If he didn't like the meal, I wore it. It was just that kind of, it didn't matter what I did. It was going to bed and being afraid. Going to bed and being afraid. And still having that sometimes. Going to bed, I usually try to wait up for my husband, because I hate going to bed and laying there and then him coming down. And it has nothing to do with him, but it has all that fear to do from the past. These are all the things I'm learning since I've come to SARCC. Thank God. Not necessarily, because when it was brought to my attention to come here, I was like, I ain't touching that. That was 10 years I buried. I didn't want to bring it, but I started having nightmares. Panic attacks. I didn't like not being in control of my own feelings. And it was suggested by a good counselor, and that it was time. And so I thought, well, I'm sober now, 18 years. But it was 16 at the time when I came here. And I thought, and there's many people, not just women, but boys, girls, whatever. If I don't work on this, how am I going to help them? I do all this other stuff now. If I don't cross this threshold, I'm not going to be able to help them. So I did this to help myself, inadvertently to help, others, to let them know that there's hope. A very good person always told me my spirit wasn't broken. I had felt broken. I, on the outside, always looked like I had it together. I'm talking about making you laugh and, letting the world think I was the greatest and, the whole shebang. And deep inside, I still had that ugly, ugly part of living that was so disgusting that I just didn't want to rehash it. And I was really good at trying to fool everyone. Matter of fact, the first time I shared it in a meeting and I said that this had happened to me, with people who knew me for 15 years were like, what? Because they never knew. They didn't even suspect. Because I always came out as a strong person, and that was another thing that blew my mind. How can somebody who is a strong person, I was strong-willed before it happened, how could it happen to me? How did I allow it to happen to me? Well, it did, and you know, I came to find out it's not my fault. You know, it was when I was ready, I left, and I am so glad I got help. So glad. You know, I asked my kids, my two oldest went through it. I think, I get choked up here, that's the hardest. Because they have memories, and I can't take that away from them. My son said to me the one time, he said, Mama, don't you remember me coming in the bathroom and asking you if you were okay? And you were leaned over the tub, and you were covered in blood. And I said to him, yeah, but I lied, because I hadn't remembered that. And then I had to fess up down the road that, you know, son, I'm sorry, I didn't remember that, and I shouldn't have told you that I did. You know, there are some things I'm sure I don't even remember yet that I probably don't want to. But that is the hardest, I think, part, is knowing that I live with it, and that, you know, they will always have that, but hopefully be able to, you know, heal and move on too. So. Well, I went to see a therapist. I had seen tons of them. I had a therapist at one time that fell asleep on me while I was in session. Yeah, you come around some doozies. But I kept searching, and I kept searching, which was a good thing, because I finally found one who had my number. The day that I walked in, when I filled out them 30 pieces of paperwork, you know, and he looked at me and he said, my God, he said, you're post-stress, da-da-da-da. And I said, well, yeah, probably. I've got everything else. You know, I made a joke out of it. And he looked at me, he said, I can't believe you're alive. He was serious. And it kind of got me like, he knows. Like, he knows. And that was sort of the beginning. And I took little baby steps, like I didn't come all out like, blah, 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 this all happened. It was a little bit at a time. It took me, well, it's probably 3-4 years to get up to this point, to sit in front of you to tell you that all this happened to me. Because if you would have said 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to, I would have been a wreck. There's no way. Asking for help was tough. But when I finally did, I mean, coming to SARCC was absolute godsend. I mean, if they'd asked me to run around, you know, and jump in the, you know, river for, you know, 20 degrees, or the polar bear, or whatever, I would do it. Because they have helped immensely. Not only that, but they make you feel like you're not alone. There is somewhere, and they understand. And I never knew that a lot of my behaviors were because I was being triggered, you see. So I got to learn that when I was being triggered, I didn't have to react and behave this way anymore. And it actually made my marriage now better because of it. I have a very supportive spouse. I mean, things go on TV, you know, with beatings or rapes on a TV show, he'll turn it off or change the channel. Sometimes I'll say to him, no, it's okay, you know, but no, asking for help was hard. I saw a TV show the one time where it was a cold case, and it was this woman who had, well, no, she was a girl, maybe 18. She was raped and beaten and left dead. And at the end, they found a perpetrator and, you know, took him to jail. And the one cop said, it's maybe better off that she did die. Because if not, you have to live with the nightmare of it all over again. And I want people to know you don't have to die. Because I intend to live. I'm a fighter. And I'm not going to let, I'm not going to let him win. Well, I drank.
Okay.
I drank, and yeah, I figured I wasn't good enough. Like, well, you know, you're never going to amount to anything. Nobody's ever going to want you. You know, la 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 la. And I had good friends of mine that would tell me, you know, that I was worth more than that. I had friends over in Germany that took pictures of me when he beat me the one time. I had people that pitied me, and I hated pity. You know, when I left him for the very first time, my friends packed up my whole house, put it in an 18-foot truck, and my brother flew up from Florida and drove it back to Pennsylvania for me. That was the first time that I actually left him. I actually divorced him. The day I divorced him, he came out of the courthouse and said, "Give me a call sometime." Yeah. And I did go back. I did go back. Yeah, and that's so insane. That's just so insane. Oh, yeah, my ex-in-laws. Yeah. Well, I actually told his mother the one time we were in the kitchen, and I said, "Your son beats me." And I kind of, she was like, I didn't raise him that way, and no, they didn't believe me. And actually, they even told my two kids I brainwashed them. Because my son said, "Mom, how can you brainwash a kid who remembers, you know, stuff?" He said, well, I try not to discuss it with my kids, because that is their dad still, you know, and they do have a relationship with him. So it's kind of hard, you know. But, yeah, the only ones that did not believe me were his parents. I don't think I ever had anybody say the wrong thing, because they were too afraid to. But the right things, saying the right things would always hurt me. Because even though they felt good, you know, like people telling me that I'm worthwhile and I'm such a good person, and I believe that, I don't always feel that. That's the problem I have. Like, I get compliments and I will make a joke about it, or I'll just say, "Oh, that was, you know, da da da," instead of saying thank you. I have trouble with a lot of that stuff. But people normally, when they say the right thing, it makes me feel good, but it makes me cry. And I don't cry much. I don't like crying. So, because it never did any good. So, yeah. Obviously, I have